report. From APM, American Public Media.
Scenic Jacksonville presents the annual Great Cities Symposium on October 10th. Speaker Carol Coletta has led the transformation of downtowns, parks, and riverfronts across the U.S., from Memphis to Chicago. Join the community conversation. Tickets available at scenicjacksonville.org. Farah and WJCT present Car Insurance. Which coverage is best for you? A lunch and learn on October 2nd. 1 in 16 drivers are uninsured. Learn how to manage a car accident with an uninsured or underinsured driver. Registration at WJCT.org. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Up next, national and local news from NPR and the WJCT News team.
After the day's news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The militant and political group Hezbollah says it will continue to attack Israel. NPR's Ada Peralta reports from Beirut. This comes after 2 weeks of relentless Israeli attacks in Lebanon.
The attack started with exploding pagers, and then Israel struck a neighborhood south of the Lebanese capital, Beirut, killing Hezbollah's longtime leader, Hassan Nasrallah. Analysts say the group is on the back foot. Many of its rockets and launchers have been destroyed by relentless Israeli bombing, and now the top echelons of its leadership have been left in disarray. But in a TV address, Hezbollah's second-in-command, Naim Qassem, vowed to continue its fight against Israel. We will continue what you started, Hassan, he said. The resistance will continue to support Gaza, defend Lebanon, and avenge the martyrs. Qassem said they will name a new secretary general and that their fight will not rest during this transition. Ada Peralta, NPR News, Beirut.
At least 90 people have been killed in 6 states by the storm that was Hurricane Helene. Extraordinary amounts of rain fell on the southeast in the past several days. Some rural parts of North Carolina got more than 17 inches of rain. Avril Pinder is the manager of Buncombe County, North Carolina, where at least 30 people were killed. Pinder says her county has been devastated by flooding.
We need food and we need water. My staff has been making every request possible to the state for support, and we've been working with every single organization that has reached out.
The tracking site poweroutage.us says more than 2 million people still don't have their power back. The worst affected states are South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida. Former President Donald Trump is going to Georgia today to receive a briefing on storm damage. He's supposed to visit the city of Valdosta and view the distribution of relief supplies. The Harris campaign is trying to put health care in the spotlight ahead of the vice presidential debate tomorrow in New York. NPR's Deepa Shivaram reports the Democratic presidential campaign released a 40-page document claiming their Republican opponent's stance on health care could increase costs for millions of people.
The day before the debate between vice presidential candidates Tim Walz and J.D. Vance, the Harris campaign wants the focus to be on health care, specifically what former President Donald Trump and Vance have said about their health care plans. Vice President Harris has been hammering Trump on health care during campaign stops on the West Coast, criticizing him for only having, quote, concepts of a plan on health care, as he said during their debate earlier this month. And today, the Harris campaign is going after Vance's comments on wanting to split health insurance coverage up depending on, quote, risk pools. Harris says a plan like that would harm people with pre-existing conditions. Deepa Shivaram, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR.
This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. The contract between Baptist Health and Florida Blue is set to expire at midnight unless the healthcare system and insurance company can agree on a new contract. If not, most services at Baptist and Wolfson Children's Hospital will become out of network for Florida Blue customers, leaving as many as 50,000 patients to pay more or find new doctors. Each entity is accusing the other of increasing patient costs. Seawater mixed with mud replaced the usual scene of gyros and baklava on the Tarpon Springs sponge docks after Helene passed through. Steve Newborn has his report.
Candace Redwine was throwing out everything that flooded after storm surge pushed 3 feet of water into her gift shop.
I probably lost about $10,000 to $15,000 worth of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
We don't have flood insurance down here. Most of us don't. If we are able to afford it, then they won't give it to us down here. That a lot of us, they won't just want to insure us down here for flood.
So all this is going to come out of your own pocket?
Absolutely. Same thing happened last year.
That was Hurricane Idalia, but she had only 2 inches of seawater in her shop then, and 2 hurricanes in 2 years is enough to make her think of moving out of the sponge docks.
I'm sitting here thinking, how many more years is this going to happen? How many more years am I going to have to deal with this? Yeah, it's tough.
In the meantime, she filled dozens of trash bags with her sodden goods. I'm Steve Newborn in Tarpon Springs.
Here in Jacksonville, it's cloudy and 75 degrees now. Thunderstorms possible after 2 near 89.
PR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Carla Itzkovich, whose gift in memory of Moises Itzkovich, founder of the Moises Itzkovich Foundation, helps provide public radio news and information to communities around the world. This is NPR.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health.
Good morning. I'm Ann Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, former sheriff candidate and city director of community initiatives, Lakesha Burton, joins us on the anniversary of her husband's debilitating stroke to discuss his progress and continuing challenges. Later in the program, we ask congressional candidate L.J. Holloway why she's taking another shot at the seat she's sought for almost a decade. But first, a near-fatal stroke changed their lives and stole his speech, but Greg and Lakesha Burton continue to celebrate each day together. To talk about the year since, we're joined by Lakesha Burton. Good morning, Lakesha.
Good morning, Ann. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. We're also joined by Jodi Morgan. She's a speech-language pathologist and co-founder of the Brooks Rehabilitation Aphasia Center. She is also the therapist of Greg Burton. Nice to have you here, Jodi.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
So, Lakesha, how are you doing?
I am very grateful. I can't believe that it's been a year. So we've been really busy in recovery and healing and also continuing to live our life to the best of our ability.
And so Greg is here with you today. He's sitting outside the studio. Take us back to a year ago. Tell us what happened.
Well, just got this, a call that nobody wants to get, that he had passed out. And I was just en route to the hospital. And when I got there, I knew it was something different this time, a little bit worse this time. And come to find out he had a massive stroke that was life-threatening. And he had to be airlifted to Baptist downtown for emergency surgery.
And when you say a little different this time, Greg had some brushes with some serious medical issues in the past.
Oh, yes. In 2012, he was diagnosed with colon cancer. He had 3 strokes, a seizure, and open heart surgery between 2012 and 2015. And, he fully recovered and had been living a good life, healthy life.
Yeah, and people who don't know Greg, although many people will recognize him, I mean, he's really kind of the picture of health. He is a very healthy-looking guy. He's very active. He's teaching you how to golf.
Absolutely, yes. And just a week before this stroke, Greg had a stress test because he felt something going on with his heart, and everything was cleared. So he had been very disciplined in his health. So
yeah. And so you and Greg both served for a long time with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. You retired, he retired. He then became the chief of Duval County Public Schools police force. And you had this career where you guys were both actually co-chiefs at the same time?
Yes. We were the first couples to be a part of the sheriff's staff.
Yeah. And so this really came at a interesting point in your life. I mean, you had gone through this sheriff's race. You've been working as a news analyst for Channel 4 as their crime and safety analyst. You'd been appointed to the mayor's top staff. You were going to be the director of public safety and then the director of kind of community initiatives.
That's correct.
And so this changed everything.
It changed. It was difficult, and a lot of people ask me, why did you leave? Why didn't you do both? And there's no way I could have done both. And I'm the type of person, when I commit to something, I'm 100%, and I couldn't commit 100% to the community and caring for my husband. So it wasn't a hard decision, but I'm grateful that the mayor was just so gracious. Obviously, she's been through those health scares herself, so she understood. And, and when I made that decision, there was a burden lifted off of my shoulders to where I could really focus on him and our younger son that was home at the time.
So tell us what happened in those first few days. I mean, you arrived at the hospital. He had gone through this emergency surgery, and so he was alive. But
Yes.
what was his condition when you first saw him and in those early days?
Yeah, he was really non-responsive. He had he's paralyzed on the right side, and for several hours I was waiting for him to open up his eyes, and every time he did, I knew he didn't know who I was. So I just started gesturing that you and me are like we're tight, we're good, and I made up in my mind right then. I said, if he never remembers who I am, he's going to fall in love with me because I'm going to take care of him. And I told him that. But it's about 3 days later, he was coming to, and I knew he knew who I was because I said, give me our special kiss. And he did it. And it was the best day of my life, honestly.
So that is a story of, a real hardship that you've gone through. It's not the first hardship that you've gone through. You've had a lot of difficult experiences in your life, starting even as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And, you've used those experiences in the past to kind of learn from and also share with others. You've been pretty open about all of the
Mm-hmm.
experiences that you've had. But this was a different kind of thing that was happening because it was happening to someone else in your life that you
Right.
had to kind of focus on and turn your attention and worry to. How did you manage to kind of just be with him in that time and not, I don't know, convey your fear, your grief, your anxiety?
I don't think I had time to convey my fear and anxiety. The condition that he was in required um, constant attention. I was sharing with some people that I was watching to see if he was going to have another seizure. He had the trembles. He was just in so much pain that I was the only one who could really communicate that to the nurses and the doctors. So it was important that I was there. And it wasn't hard because Greg and I, when we got married, we became one, and he took care of me. He changed my life when we met, and he's always taking care of me. So, and we already had a strong foundation, right? So the foundation was there. What I needed to do is alleviate other things that I was doing and just focus on him. And I was able to do that when I left the mayor's office. I know Joy Purdy, she said, it's like you disappeared. I said, well, if that's what it appeared that I did, that means I did the right thing by prioritizing what was most important in my life.
I'm talking to Lakesha Burton. It's been 1 year and a day since her husband had this terrible stroke, Greg Burton. And if you want to join our conversation, you're welcome to. You can call us at 904-549-2937, or you can email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can also reach out on social media. So you're a high profile couple. Both of you have, been in public service, and this happened at a time when you were obviously serving in the mayor's office. There was an outpouring of, I think support, many, many people concerned, almost probably overwhelming, I would guess, initially.
Yes, I was so overwhelmed for the first time in my life. And I'm an extrovert and I love and desire to be around people. But in those days, the hospital had to put make him anonymous because people were just coming to the hospital. They were calling in. It was all good intentions, but I was just so overwhelmed with the love and support. And I always tell people, when you do good, it comes back to you. And I've always said that and lived by that. But on September 29th, 2023, it came back on me. And I was so overwhelmed. So all I want to do is continue to do good, because when it comes back in many ways. It could be your health, your finances, your mental health with your kids. So just very, very grateful for all the support.
And I think you had an experience that other people have when they have someone in their life who's ill, that sometimes when people come to see you or they may visit the hospital or they're interacting with you, they're doing so with a sense of grief or tragedy. They're bringing, this sorrowful posture to you.
Right.
And you didn't have
No,
any of that.
no, I said, don't bring it. No, I think that's part of recovery, having, being optimistic and being positive and having positive energy, which I understood. But again, I didn't have the capacity to absorb any negative or sorrow. I was just focused on, healing and positivity, but people were just really, really gracious though. And that's another reason why I had to isolate myself from people. I tried to conserve my energy for Greg and our son. So, that's why I had to really isolate myself, because all you're doing is repeating what's going on, how he's doing. And I just got to the point where I was exhausted.
Yeah, you got to save your energy and kind of cocoon a little bit. Yeah. We have a call from Dr. Mina, who is the doctor who actually saved your husband's life.
Dr. Nima saved my husband's life. I'll never forget the conversation. I was at Baptist South. He talked to me on the phone. He said, drive safely. I'm going to wait for your husband. When you get here, he'll be in recovery. And it was the kindest, most compassionate doctor I've ever met, and I'm forever grateful.
Good morning, Dr. Nima. Welcome to First Coast Connect. How are you?
Good morning. Good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for calling in. So tell us, if you can, a little bit about that first interaction you had with Lakesha when you were telling her what you knew about Greg's condition.
Yes, thanks again for having me, Ms. Burton. Good to hear from you. As you know, Mr. Burton unfortunately had a major stroke caused by a blockage on the left side of the brain. Stroke is very common, and it can happen at any time to anyone. The important thing is to detect it and get care as fast as possible. Thankfully, Mr. Burton was able to get to us at Baptist, and as you know, we have a comprehensive stroke program that can detect and treat these fast. So as soon as Mr. Burton arrived, the blockage, which was preventing the oxygen to get to the left side of the brain, we were able to go up through the blood vessel and remove that mechanically. He also got a blood thinner, which can help dissolve the blood clot as fast as possible. Those two treatments, I think, were very important to be done for him.
And what was your initial assessment, or what was your prognosis for Greg? Where did you think he would be, say, a year on where we are today?
I'm very hopeful, but obviously you have to be realistic. At the moment, you don't exactly know the extent of the problem, the extent of the brain damage. Every minute that passes, about 2 million neurons die. So the most important thing is, again, treat as fast as you can, successfully and effectively. So at the time, I did not know the prognosis, although I believe that Mr. Burton got to us relatively quick, and again, we were able to open up the blockage. So prognosis to me was hopefully good with the treatment that he received. However, hearing the story now, seeing a year back, I think he has done better than I expected. And I think that one of the reasons is, again, Miss Burton's tireless effort to be there, help, support. And I think the support and dedication of Mrs. Burton really made a big impact in his recovery.
Talk a little bit more about that, if you would, Dr. Nima, because not everybody has somebody in their life as supportive, as loving, as devoted. But you believe it really does make an impact?
Definitely. And not only I believe, study has shown aggressive rehab, support, all that does make a difference. Actually, if you think about it, again, the groundbreaking treatment for acute ischemic stroke is thrombectomy, where we can go with a wire. We have great techniques. This can be done relatively quick in the right setting can significantly help. But that's the initial treatment. After that, the brain cells still recover, and they do have to develop new connection, new circuitry. The other part of the brain can take over. This is only done by therapy, rehab, and support. And unfortunately, as you said, not everybody has that. I would greatly advocate for more rehab and support for people who, do obviously need it. And I think that makes a big impact on patients' recovery.
And obviously, time is of the essence in terms of getting treatment or getting to someplace that can care for you. Is that right? In terms of those early moments.
Thanks for asking that. That is very, very important. Every second, every minute counts. One of the challenges that we have is detection of stroke, because stroke doesn't hurt. When somebody has a stroke, one part of the body may stop working. For example, Mr. Burton was not moving the right arm, right leg, and he was not talking. The language, not moving on one side, these are all signs of a stroke. We use the acronym that called B-FAST, which people can memorize. B is balance, eyes, cannot see, all of a sudden balance problem, and then FAST is one face get droopy, one arm not moving, and then problem speaking. And the T is the time. As soon as the stroke is detected, you should call 911, and that patient may qualify or benefit from this groundbreaking treatment. Not every hospital is equipped to deal with this complexity, so it has to be the right place, fastest possible way, and effectively opening up the blockage is very effective. The problem, as I said, is education, and sometimes, again, people will ignore signs and symptoms of a stroke.
Well, Dr. Nemitz, we appreciate you calling in. We appreciate you taking such good care of Greg Burton and Lakesha.
Thank you, Doctor.
My pleasure, and thanks again for having me.
Of course. I want to bring in Jodi now. You have been a therapist for people who are recovering from strokes, among other things. Jodi Morgan, you you co-founded the Brooks Rehab Aphasia Center. So tell us, if you can, first of all, what is aphasia, and is that what Greg is experiencing?
Yeah, so aphasia is a language disorder, meaning it affects the left part of your brain, and it can be caused by a stroke, it can be caused by a brain tumor, it can be caused by a car accident, gunshot wound, any damage to the left part of the brain. And the interesting thing about aphasia is aphasia affects language, but not your IQ or your intelligence. And I always like to tell people it's like if I were dropped in another country and I don't know, let's say Japanese, and I'm dropped in Japan, I'm still as smart as I ever was. I still have my personality, my charisma, my sense of humor, my wit, whatever it is. But all of a sudden the language has changed. So maybe I can't read a menu, or I can't understand conversation, or I go to ask for directions or do something and I can't get my words out, or writing. Some people have one language modality affected. Some people have all four. So it just depends on how big the stroke was, where it was in your brain. But again, you're the same person. You just can't get your words out, or maybe don't understand when they're coming in, just depending on where it happens in the brain.
And it's clear talking to Greg that he 100% has his faculties, his sense of humor. He's, who he is, right?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. He is just incredible and kind and smart. And and that has not changed.
Yeah.
In fact, I think sometimes when people lose their language, other senses come more intact. And I'll notice, even when interacting with him, he would look at me and he could tell in an instant if something was wrong with me. He just was so tuned into other people's body language and things like that. He's just amazing.
We are talking now to Jodi Morgan. She is a speech language pathologist. She's working with Greg Burton on his aphasia. And if you want to join our conversation, you can call us at 904-549-2937, or you can email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. We have an email from Faye. She says, Brooks has changed my life too. They have exceptional programs for people who need physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. I have Parkinson's and essential tremor. Shout out to my speech therapist, Callie Tucker. So Jodi, tell us where Greg is in his, journey with this. Is he continuing to improve? Has he, what are your expectations?
Well, I think he is honestly, just like Dr. Nema was saying, has exceeded everyone's expectation. And again, shout out to Lakesha and a loving family and re-engagement and life and all that she's done, because that's how people get better. So I think what's wonderful in the research literature and the aphasia literature is it's really showing that people can continue to get better a long time after their stroke. So people can keep improving. For many, many years afterwards. You can keep making those connections, re-engaging in life, improving on different things. So there's a lot of hope for recovery.
I think what's cool about Greg is that he doesn't shy away from using his voice. He's not silent. He's talking all the time. He has a book that he kind of will use to support what he's saying, Lakesha, sometimes by drawing like a little stick figure.
Yes, he is so studious. And he went to the bookstore a few months ago, and I was like, what are we doing? And he went and purchased some books to learn sign language. So every day he does a sign language. I said, well, I need to learn it too so I can understand. Yeah, so he doesn't shy away. He's working hard every single day.
Yeah. So as we were saying, it's a year to the day. Greg Burton is in the hallway. He's not with us right now. And so we're not talking to him, but I wanted to have people be able to hear from him. So this is him speaking after you advanced in the sheriff's race to the November election.
All I want to say is this. Look around in this room. Look at the different cultures, the different political parties. This is America.
That's right.
This is what we are supposed to be about. So from my heart, I want to thank you all for supporting my wife. You just don't know what all of you have meant to her. You have no idea the nights that we stay up until 12 and 1 o'clock and she's talking about you and how much she appreciates you and how much I appreciate you for taking care of my greatest prize.
So that's Greg Burton talking about you, Lakesha. You're his greatest prize.
Yeah, I haven't heard his voice in a year. Wow. I almost forgot what his voice sounded like. I'm just grateful that we found other ways to communicate.
And the love hasn't changed.
Nope. Actually, it's deeper than ever before. I'm so grateful. People go a lifetime without finding real love. I'm just happy that I found it.
There's a shirt that you wear sometimes together, which I think really encapsulates your relationship. They're matching black and white shirts, and his says, "Nothing since we're," and yours says, "Makes when apart." And so when you stand side by side, it reads, "Nothing makes sense when we're apart." And it really is a strong and beautiful bond that you guys have.
We're never too far away from each other. And let me just apologize to people at Baptist South because I kind of took over the hospital. Called me Dr. Burton.
Talk about that when you say you took over the hospital. What do you mean?
I really did. Just you have to have an advocate, and I was there every day. I kept a journal from day one. I have a journal today for every conversation because, in the medical world, they use these terms you don't understand. So I had to do a lot of research, and I was able to say, this medication caused this side effect. He's not supposed to have that. He needs more of this. And I did everything. I told him I'll bathe him, I'll feed him, I'll do everything. So I just, they appreciated it. But I was just there 24/7. So I became a fabric of the hospital. And even at the Aphasia Center, I tell you, Jodi has been God sent to really help us understand the tools that we need to utilize. And she made sure that we understood that we are still valuable, and human, and that there is hope. So, and I told Jodi, I said, well, we have to bring more awareness, and there certainly needs to be more resources available because I was very fortunate. I have both of my husband and I have pensions, but what about people who can't afford it? Are they not getting this therapy to have a better quality of life? And I just think that, we have to do better. So I'm just gracious for her heart and her support and the work that Baptist and Brooks is doing.
And insurance doesn't always cover this kind of therapy. Is that right, Jodi?
Oh, absolutely. It does not cover. So one thing that I'm very grateful for is we do have the Brooks Aphasia Center, which is one of the only in the country. And one of the great things about our aphasia center is we have two arms of the program. One of it is our community. So we have a lot of people with aphasia come together for groups to focus on quality of life things. We have all sorts of groups, and it's non-insurance based, meaning because of the Brooks Endowment Fund, people can come and it's based on a sliding scale. So we don't turn anybody away. If they don't have insurance, they can come to these groups. But then we also have an intensive program, a 6-week program that is more of an out-of-pocket program. But the great thing I love about Brooks is that we are able to give back to anyone who needs these services.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that insurance doesn't cover something that seems like it would be so practical in the life of somebody recovering from a stroke.
Yeah, they'll cover sometimes for a certain period of time, but then the insurance stops. And again, what we know about stroke recovery is people can recover for a long time after a stroke. So we definitely need more of these services and just awareness. No one knows what aphasia is. You'll say the word aphasia. I run an aphasia center and people have asked me, oh, is that a skin disorder? People don't know what aphasia is. And so it's very difficult for even people to research. They get discharged from a hospital. They don't even understand what this devastating condition is, that they can't talk or read or write. They might not have even heard the word. So I'm just grateful for Lakesha for being such a strong advocate to get the word out about what this is, because we definitely need more awareness, more help for people, more resources in our community and many others.
And there's gradations of aphasia, right? They're not all you can't speak. Sometimes they're just words you can't find.
Yeah, there's actually 7 different kinds of aphasia. So depending on where it hits in the brain, anterior versus posterior lobe, how big the stroke is. So there's 7 different kinds. So some people can talk fluently and you don't understand their words, but they understand every single thing that's happening. Or there's some type of aphasia where they can't get one word out and they have to use a communication device. And then there's people who can talk fluently and maybe every once in a while they'll just replace some words. Some people have problems with numbers. They can't say or write numbers. So there's a huge variety of people with aphasia.
And has Greg at any point kind of had his words match what he's trying to say? I mean, where has he landed in that? Sometimes
many times actually, and just over the last couple months he's learning different words and he's saying more words. A few weeks ago we were going to bed, he said I love you, and I was like, oh my God, I said you he was like looking like, what's wrong with you? Because to him, he's speaking the right language. He has to remind himself that he has aphasia. And sometimes I'll point at my mouth and I'll tell him, I don't understand what you're saying. So write it down. And he'll say, oh, yeah, I have aphasia. So, yeah, but the words are coming out, and obviously his gestures and his actions and stuff. What I love most is that, the aphasia didn't impact his personality or his love language, It's so amazing. He's so affectionate and loving.
And you can really read his tone and his body language, and you can kind of really interpret and intuit what he's saying.
Yes. We just recently purchased a new home, and we went to go and purchase some furniture, and everything I liked, he was like, Then I was like, I wrote down, compromise, Greg. You have to compromise, okay? And that's one thing I've done because I wanted to make sure he feels like he is still the man and priest of our family, and his independence is very important. So every decision we make, we still make it together. We do the same things. It's just, the verbal part is not there. So.
Yeah. Well, his progress has been remarkable, and I'm so glad that you were able to come in today and talk about this last year and how you all are doing.
Yes, I appreciate it so much. I'm so grateful for everybody who has even just prayed for us. So just grateful to God, and we're living life to the fullest, literally every single day.
Lakesha, Burton, Jodi Morgan, thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was an honor.
All right. Up next, LJ Holloway, candidate for U.S. Representative in District 4, discusses fourth-generation resident of the Congressional district she is seeking to represent. In 2022, she ran for the seat unsuccessfully, but she's back for a rematch. And I'm joined now by District 4 Congressional candidate LaShonda LJ Holloway. Welcome, LJ.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you for having me. I'm pleased to be here this morning.
I'm very happy to have you. So this is not your first race.
It is not my first race. I have run in 3 different configurations for United States Congress, and the number has changed and the map has changed 3 times.
Yeah, but you've been running for a decade.
Well, I mean, and that's a congressional district a congressional, I've run 3 times before. And when I ran in 2016 against Corrine Brown and Al Lawson, the district actually was a district that went through Orlando, and in the middle
District 5.
It was District 5, and in the middle, no, at that time, yeah, it was District 5. And it changed in the middle of the campaign, and then it started going east-west. And then the second time that I ran, of course, we were going through a lawsuit regarding that district because it was not close and compact. The law requires for a congressional district, of course, which is 710,000 people, for it to be close and contiguous. And of course, that district was more than 180 miles from Jacksonville, west of Tallahassee.
Yeah, and it's now the subject of another lawsuit. I mean, it continues this redistricting issue, right?
Exactly. It's a gerrymandered district now. And you should probably know, and your listeners should probably know, that that district was formerly a minority access district. Of course, now it is a Republican gerrymandered district by the governor and drawn by my opponent's sister-in-law, Senator Jennifer Bradley, who is a senator from Clay County. So, of course, the district
who served on the redistricting committee.
That is correct.
Yeah. So your opponent is Aaron Bean. We have reached out to him. He's the Republican incumbent, and he is, of course, welcome on the program. We've not heard back from him on those offers, but he's on round 2 of another another 2-year term that he's seeking. Last time he captured about 60% of the vote at huge margins in Nassau and Clay County. So first of all, why are you challenging him? What chance do you think you have of success?
So I believe that there is a path to victory, and I am challenging him because, one, I believe that the people deserve better. Moreover, look, we have to be very clear about this district. This district is one poised and positioned to flip. Jacksonville has more than 263,000 Democrats, and in the midterm election, look, we had less than a 25% turnout. Given the top of the ticket, I do believe that people in Jacksonville will turn out the vote. And also, when I am in Nassau and Clay County, I am received very well by Republicans and non-party affiliated voters. And when I'm in Nassau, people are saying we are tired of the beans. His father was a mayor, he was a mayor, and his son is a mayor, and they call his son Baby Bean. And look, the people in Nassau County are really tired of the beans. So I do believe there's a path to victory.
So when you talk about the top of the ticket, obviously there's a presidential election. There's some other amendments that are going to be driving turnout. And you've taken a pretty strong stand, for instance, on Amendment 4.
Absolutely. First of all, as someone who doesn't have a Y chromosome and as a woman, look, I do believe that people deserve to have access to health care, in particular women. Women should have body autonomy. Moreover, look, I mean, there are families, who rely on in vitro fertilization to start families. People should have the right to make decisions about their bodies.
And so that's Amendment 4. It would make abortion legal to viability under the advice of a doctor. What other issues are priorities for you?
So the other issues that are priorities for me, and I think what's important to listeners and voters in particular, what I hear on the campaign trail with young people, they are concerned about affordable housing. That is real. And we just had Hurricane Helene. I mean, look, we know that we need climate action. And as someone who worked for the Environmental Protection Agency, I can tell you that with Project 2025 on page 417, they want to eliminate the Environmental Protection Agency. And look, Americans deserve climate action. We deserve clean air, but most importantly, we deserve drinking water.
Yeah. So climate is an issue that hasn't really moved much in Congress. Is there anything specific that you think that you could bring to that discussion in DC if you were elected?
Yes, absolutely. First and foremost, we need to make sure that we have minimum legal protections for environmental regulations. That's number one. We need to make sure. And I mean, look, as a result of climate change, there is more intense hurricanes. We know that there are higher winds, higher wind speeds, and more precipitation. We just saw that right here in Jacksonville, Florida. And there are some people who are probably in your listening audience who still do not have power. While I can say that, we have done a very good job thanks to the people at JEA and the first responders, but there is still a percentage of people in this area who still don't have light. So we know that the impacts of this trend are likely to be exacerbated by sea level rise and a growing population along coastlines. So we have to make sure that we have minimum protections to ensure that there are environmental protections.
Like, what is a minimum protection in your mind?
In my mind, minimum protections would be to, one, keep the Environmental Protection Agency. That's number one. But two, having minimum protections to say that, look, we can we need to have anti-climate regulations to make sure that, look, people are not overdeveloping, because the water has to drain off somewhere, right? And when you have all this concrete and water is not absolving into the earth, look, we are borrowing from our future and, look, really doing a disservice to our planet.
So in Congress, another debate that is being had has to do with foreign spending, whether to continue spending in Ukraine, whether to continue supporting Israel financially and through munitions. Where do you stand on those issues in particular?
So let me just say that as a candidate, I worked on Capitol Hill, and I understand that we have Congressional Research Service and that we have, military professionals. I will say to you that, and I have to full disclosure, I am a descendant of Ethiopian Jews, but I do believe in a two-state party solution, and we have greater domestic issues than foreign issues. And we are a part of NATO, and to keep the country secure, look, we have to have those partnerships to keep our nation secure.
So you believe in continuing to fund Israel through war supplies?
Well, no, I abhor war. That's what I'm saying. Without more data, I'm just a candidate. I don't have Congressional Research Service. So without more data, it's hard for me to speak on that because, look, I don't have more data. If I had more data, then I could make an intelligent response. But I will say that we have to support our allies because it is important for us to protect our borders. And look, I don't agree with bullying. Of course, everyone has a right to defend themselves, right? And look, to the contrary, though, I also believe that people should have dignity. So without more, it's hard. That's why I believe in a two-state solution, but it's hard to speak on that without more data.
What about immigration? I mean, that's an issue, obviously, that has roiled a lot of conversations in D.C. What is your position on how that is being handled? What would you like to see?
So with immigration, I believe that we all are immigrants. If truth be told, I mean, the Native Americans or the indigenous people are the people who are native to this country. So we all are immigrants. I think African Americans who came by slavery are probably the only ones who came unwillingly. And I do believe that, one, we are stronger together. And with immigration, I think that we need reform in that for DACA, for Dreamers. The period for Dreamers to have access or to get benefits, it's more than 150 days. So we definitely need reform. The other thing is we know that, there's a segment of society, that talks about the border. I will tell you that I negotiated the largest deal in history at U.S. Customs and have gone to different border protection agencies and know many special agents in charge. And so the numbers have been exaggerated. That's number one. But two, we also need to acknowledge the fact that this 118th Do Nothing Congress had a bipartisan border bill, and I will say to you that my opponent, the incumbent, voted no. Now, he speaks incessantly about the border, but he voted no on the bipartisan border bill.
We're talking to congressional candidate LJ Holloway. You can join our conversation at 904-549-2937, or you can email firstcoastconnect at wjct.org. We have a call from Mike on the South Side. Good morning, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I must say I've been very impressed with Ms. Holloway. I know she's going all over the district talking to people, and I really appreciate that. I have been disappointed in Aaron Bean, who, unlike many other Republicans, is putting party in his position over country by endorsing Donald Trump, who tried to overturn a free and fair election. You all are talking about very important issues. What I want to know is, when is the debate going to happen so that these two can get together face to face and really hash these issues out for the public?
Thanks, Mike. I don't think there is a debate scheduled.
Yeah, there is a debate scheduled, and that's why I kind of laugh because, thank you, Mike. I sent a certified letter because, I was a Democratic nominee in 2022, and Mr. Bean did not debate me then. And so this time we sent a certified letter on August 24th with a venue and a location in Nassau County. So it was his home county on October 9th, and that is also when members of Congress are in district for the whole month because it's an election year. So he should be in district, and we set it for October 9th. We sent the certified letter on the 24th. His office received it on the 27th, and we are yet to receive a response. So, Mr. Bean, if you or your team are listening, we are still open and available to debate on October 9th.
You planning on being there regardless, October 9th, waiting?
October 9th, waiting on Mr. Bean.
Just briefly, I mean, he is, I would say, far, far ahead in the money race, right? He's got like 1.3 million. You've got a few thousand.
Yes, very little. So we know that he, of course, has a Koch Brother Citizens United PAC. We know that. But we can tell from the last election, I received 108,000 votes with no money. So I received 108,000 votes. He brought Donald Trump. He was endorsed by Donald Trump. He bought Newt Gingrich and the then person who was in line to become the Speaker of the House. What was his name? McCarthy. Yeah, so he bought all three of them to defeat little old me with no money. So this is a David and Goliath story. I worked very hard across this district campaigning and touching the hands and the hearts of the people because I genuinely love the people. And if I could receive 108,000 votes with no money during a midterm election with poor turnout and 75,000 Democrats who did not vote during the general, during a presidential year, certainly I can defeat Aaron Bean.
Well, the election is November 5th. Early voting gets underway in Duval County on the 21st of October. LJ Holloway, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Ann, for having me.
Up next, 4 for 4 losses.
For Scottish Highland Games Masters World Championship, October 5th and 6th at the Clay County Fairgrounds. International athletic competition and a festival featuring pipes and drums, Celtic music, and Scottish clans. Tickets available at 2024mwc.com.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Personal Injury and Wrongful Death Law Firm. When people are hurt through no fault of their own, answering who, what, when, where, why, and how is critical to proving the truth. More at terrellhogan.com.
Arizona is the national pioneer for universal school vouchers.
I like the freedom to choose what we study, so I do think it's time to get more creative with education.
But critics say it's busting the state budget. And with more school voucher questions on other state ballots right now, we'll take a look at lessons learned from Arizona. It's our latest collaboration with ProPublica on the next On Point.
Today at 11, here on WJCT News 89.9.
When was the last time you looked up the candidates for your state's Supreme Court? Voters in 33 states choose who sits on their Supreme Courts this election. These are often overlooked races that could have far-reaching consequences. We discuss state Supreme Courts and what's at stake for issues like abortion access, electoral districts, and more in our regular If You Can Keep It political hour. Next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, the Jags fell to the Texans after losing their edge in the final 2 minutes of the game. Here to talk about it is News4Jax sportscaster Alessandra Pontbriand. Good morning, Alessandra.
Good morning. How are you?
I mean, what the heck happened in Houston?
It's so funny. No, I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. But it's kind of funny because you're like, really? Did that really just happen? My roommate, who doesn't know much about football, I love Gretchen so much, but she doesn't know much about football. She was like, oh, they'll be good. They can bounce back. And I was like, there was 3:30 left on the clock, and there was something that I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like something's gonna happen. And then they threw it away. I mean, it's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. The only thing you had to do was run the ball and just hold the ball, run down the clock, which is it's doable with 3 minutes and 30 seconds because you also have the 2-minute timeout for the 2-minute warning. But they didn't do that. They decided their drive was like 46 seconds long, and they gave the Texans, 3 minutes basically at that point, a little under 3 minutes to, drive down the field and, of course, score their touchdown. The guy that caught the winning touchdown was a former Jaguar, too, which is just like, oof, I know, right? That's why you kind of just have to, you're just like, really? Did that really just happen? That's why I'm like, I don't want to laugh because it's not funny, but I mean, you kind of do have to chuckle because you're like, is this really the state of the Jaguars right now? Like, I feel like, did someone put a spell on them? That's what I was thinking. I was telling my roommate, I was like, I think someone put a spell on them.
That's your
something.
diagnosis.
Yeah, that's my
Just an actual curse.
I'm like, because it's a good team with good players, but someone must have put a spell on them. I completely believe that stuff.
Okay,
So
Alessandra, well,
that's
we're going to wrap the show. No, I was kidding. So 24-20 ended up being the final score, right? They're 0 for 4.
Mhm.
They haven't been that bad since Urban Meyer, right?
Yeah, this is the second time they start 0-4 since in the past 5 years. The last time was during Urban Meyer's year when they started 0-5. Yeah, in 2021 they started 0-5. So that doesn't sound great. Hopefully history's not repeating themselves. Here's the thing. They have the Colts this Sunday, and call me crazy. I'm gonna pick the Jaguars in that, which is like, why would you do that? But I really think that the Jaguars are kind of like, they're not even on their backs aren't even to the wall. Their backs are on like the rock bottom right now, And I think that, you can only look up from there. So I think, they're going against the Colts. Anthony Richardson got a little banged up. He had some hip injury in the game. Then he went back in the game, and I think it didn't help. So he'll be a little banged up, which is good because Anthony Richardson, I really like Anthony Richardson, obviously a Gator guy, but I just think he's a good quarterback, young guy. But I do think being at home, Tom Coughlin's going to be inducted into the Pride of the Jaguars this week. So hopefully he can bring some good vibes and maybe ruin this curse. Break the curse.
Break the curse.
However you do it, break the curse.
What about Coach Peterson? I mean, we heard some questions at the presser after the game where people were asking about his future. I know that my husband was certainly mentioning that at the end of the game, but he didn't seem to take the bait on that at all.
No. And I mean, listen, Doug Peterson is such a veteran, but you have to remember, it's not like he's not a good coach. Like, he has Super Bowl rings. So obviously he's a good coach. But what's going on around him? Are the players not understanding what he's trying to say? Are the assistant coaches not on the same page? He said, that he thought the Press Taylor called a good game, but, coaches can only do so much now. Players have to go play, which I thought that was kind of telling. But at the same time, something has to change. The way that they're going right now, it seems like it's the same game plan, and they can't. It needs to completely change because obviously an 0-4 start is not good. He says he's not worried about his job. I don't know. Right now, I don't think, I think I'd be a little worried. You're 0-4. In the beginning of the season, Shad Khan said the expectation is to win, and they haven't won yet. So I think, his boss is probably not too happy with him. But I don't know. I think he's okay. I don't think he's good right now. I think he's okay, though, in my opinion. It doesn't seem like the vibe is that he's about to get fired in the season. I don't think.
What is the controversy with the play calling and Press Taylor? What's happening there about who's calling the plays and whether that should be happening in the way that it is?
Yeah, I know. This is the biggest debate. But Doug Peterson has said it's kind of like, who cares who calls the plays,
Well, I mean, you care if they're working, right?
No, of course, 100%. And I think that's why a lot of people have talked about, the reason why it was such a big debate is because at the end of last season, he said, oh, yeah, everything is going to be reevaluated. And so he kind of insinuated by what the question was asked that play calling was going to be reevaluated. Press Taylor is calling the plays, but Doug Peterson is an offensive guy. He used to call the plays for the Jaguars until I think the second half of 2 seasons ago, 2022, is when Press Taylor started picking up a calling plays. So, it's definitely a point of contention, I think, for all of Jaguars fans. But at the end of the day, I do think, whoever's calling the plays, maybe that, who knows? I think the players just also have something to do with that too.
Well, we're going to circle back with you after this next game. This is our supernatural sportscaster, Alessandra Pontbriand. She wants to break the curse, and we'll see, next week what happens. Right? Thank you, Alessandra, for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And that's our program. We encourage your feedback or suggestions. You can send either to First Coast Connect at WJCT.org. Join us tomorrow when we talk to UNF President Moaz Lamayam about leading in a time of educational turmoil. I'm Ann Schindler. You've been listening to First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com. Scenic Jacksonville presents the annual Great City Symposium on October 10th. Speaker Carol Coletta has led the transformation of downtowns, parks, and riverfronts across the U.S., from Memphis to Chicago. Join the community conversation. Tickets available at scenicjacksonville.org.
This is David McGowan, CEO of WJCT Public Media, here to say quick thank you to all of you who responded to our ask of support during our recent on-air pledge drive. It takes all of us to make this radio station happen. Thank you.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Up next, national and local news from NPR and the WJCT News team.